So, hey everyone, this is the LPPA Town Hall with Larry Sharpe and Lars Mapstead. The format we're going to use, as always, is I will have the candidates introduce themselves, and then anyone that's in attendance can ask whatever question they want. There's no question that's bad. Just don't violate the NAP. That's all we ask. So, Lars or Larry, whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I can start off. No problem. Whoop, I went full screen and that was kind of crazy.
Hey, Lars, why don't you let me go first?
All right.
Because I'll bring you in.
Okay.
You guys all know who I am. You've all seen me or heard me in some way, shape, or form, I'm sure. You might be asking yourself, why the hell did you jump in for the LP VP nomination? Well, I knew I wasn't going to run for president. I said that a long time ago. I got my butt kicked in New York in 2022, and it was very hard. It's very hard to recover from that. Those of you who run long races, you know that. So I thought, well, I would be open to the VP because the VP slot really is support staff for us. That's what it is. It's support staff. People are voting for the president. Hopefully Lars will be that person. So that's really support staff that we really want. And I'm happy to do that because of one important issue. Lars brought me on last year to help him put together things like policy and things like that. And I was very happy about that because I'm all about policy. And I think Lars has the best and the most policy of any candidate out there. It's not even close. And I'm biased because I helped write a whole bunch of it. So I'm biased, but it doesn't matter. It's true. And I'm happy that I did it. I love policy, and that was very important to me. But I also saw him building on a team, taking this seriously, putting his money where his mouth is. I saw him being responsible, basically, for getting ballot access in Maine. I saw him physically show up there, see how hard it is, and then realize that it took money to kind of wrap it up. He wrote a big check for himself. He wrote a check for 25 grand to make sure that Maine got ballot access. And Maine will tell you that without him, there's no ballot access in Maine. Nobody else could have done that. Nobody else did do that. And now he has the most important piece. I am worried. I am worried that with all the other people who are running this year, that this Libertarian Party is going to hardly get any votes whatsoever. That is my worry, that we're not going to raise much money. I am worried. Why? Because I know the donor class. You know I do. I've raised lots of money for this party for many, many years. I know the donor class very well. And a lot of them have either walked away from the party or worse, in my view, are giving money to Kennedy. They are supporting Bobby Kennedy Jr. That's happening throughout. Some of you probably know people who are. That's happening now. So then where is our money going to come from after we have our nominee? We're not going to raise $2-3 million like we did before. That money's going to Kennedy or Jill Stein or Cornel West, or just walking away because they're so tired of fighting for nothing. So we're going to raise maybe $500,000, maybe $1 million. What does that mean? That means that whoever gets this is going to get less than 1%. And this year we might come in behind, not just Bobby Kennedy Jr., but also Cornel West and Jill Stein. I can't stomach coming in sixth. I just can't. I can't stomach that. The only person on the planet to change that is Lars. And it isn't just the cash. It is the cash, but it isn't only the cash. It is also the plan that focuses on two small areas up front, focuses first up the bat on Maine and in Nebraska, trying to get an electoral vote. Why does that matter? It matters because that's what gets the press to go, oh my God, they have a plan to make impact. And they then start following us, and that makes it a national campaign. And that's how we get more money. And that's how we get more credibility. And that's how we get 2, 3, 4, 5% and retain ballot access in most of the states, and hopefully have a fight for the other states on top of it. Without his plan, we don't get that. I know it works. How? I did it in New York State. I focused on smaller places first. I got the press, and before you know it, I'm everywhere. I'm the guy who got on Joe Rogan. I'm the guy who got on Glenn Beck. I'm the guy who got on Dave Rubin. I got on all these places. Why? Because I focused small first. It became a statewide campaign, and I multiplied the last guy who ran in my state, his vote total, by 6. Lars does his plan, and he multiplies Joe by 6. We got 5%. This changes the game in a year that we might come in 6th. All of a sudden, we might be coming in 3rd and changing the game for the next 4 years. If we actually get gold on the map, people can see it. Oh my God, we changed this. Every single local candidate running now go, see, we make impact. Every time people see that goal, they go, what the hell is that goal? Libertarian, what's that? And they Google Libertarian, exactly what Lars has said in the past. He said that's how he got here. He got here by Googling Libertarian. I want 1 million, 2 million, 10 million people to Google what's Libertarian. because we'll get a bunch of them. Lars's plan is correct. It's the right answer. I saw it,
And
and
here's
I'm
the truth.
in.
Even if you ask Donald Trump a direct question, has he ever given
Jay,
a direct
can you mute?
answer? He doesn't. He will just talk about what
Jay,
he
can you
wants
mute?
to talk about. If you can say, you can
Jay,
ask
can
him
you
about
mute?
one, he'll be like, yeah, I don't like the income
Jay,
tax.
mute.
Talk about it, how terrible it was that I was robbed in 2020. You know, he's going to take it back to wherever he wants to take.
Thank you, Jay.
I muted
So,
him for you.
No worries. My last piece here is he's taking it even one step further. He's talking about stopping 270, which I love. And when that started to come out, and when I saw what happened, is when I thought I need to get on board here. Literally, he was on the Smircana show. But as you know, Mr. Smircana is a mainstream CNN guy. And he started talking about how we can actually make it to where we can make it so that neither Trump nor Biden gets 270. If that actually happens, now the 12th Amendment kicks in, and now this goes to the Congress. The Congress has to select. Each state gets one vote. Wyoming is as powerful as California. Who the hell knows what happens? Maybe Trump still wins, maybe not. Maybe they pick RFK Jr. Maybe they pick Lars. Who the hell knows? It's happened before, 1800 and 1824, could happen again. That happens. If he actually wins this thing, that's amazing. If he doesn't win this thing, he still screws the entire system up, and the libertarians did it. We are now players. And once he said that, right after that, Donald Trump literally calls Nebraska, the governor, and says, hey, change your rules. Lars is right. Change your damn rules. All of a sudden, now the polling that Lars is in is all of a sudden within the Trump world. Why do you think Trump's coming to us? He's coming to us because he just likes us? No, he's run twice before. He's coming because he knows now is the time, because Lars's plan is the right plan, and he's the only guy talking about this. This is happening. To be forward, I came in because of Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson in 2016, when he came in here, he was in 3 polls before. Lars has been in 12. This is the time. This is the year. This is the plan. All this is happening because Lars is talking the talk and walking the walk. I'm on board. I hope you'll be on too. Now that I've said this, Lars, I hope I pumped you up enough. Please go.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I mean, just this week, what's really interesting is Donald Trump included me in his internal polling, which I was shocked at. It's very clear that they're watching my campaign. He put on his Truth Social about my polling. He made a post about it, so they're clearly watching. And if you go on my Twitter right now, my X, I don't know, 5 or 6 days ago, I posted a video clip of Trump talking after the 2020 election, and he's basically saying that the libertarians are what caused him to lose the election in this interview, and that he's going to be focusing very clearly on us going forward, because we were basically the spoiler under his eyes, right? So what we're trying to do this time is go much farther than just spoiling the election by a couple of percent. What we're trying to do is cause this contingent election. And if you'll notice and start looking around, Kennedy has been pumping this thing as well. I've been talking to his team for, I don't know, almost a year, ever since he basically announced that he was going to run for independent. I've been kind of talking to different people on his team and talking about contingent election, because Kennedy doesn't have a path to win 270 electoral votes either. There's zero chance for him to be president of the United States through the electoral system. But there is a good possibility that he could win a couple of states. And the more states that he wins, and if I win Nebraska and Maine, I think that this really could kind of, come together right after that vote that Donald Trump had in Nebraska. Aaron Burnett was on CNN with Andrew Yang, and they were literally talking about 269 to 269, that this election could come down to 1 or 2 electoral votes. But so all that being said, we have an opportunity right now that's before us, before they change these laws, before they rig the system against us again. It's clear that that's their intention, since they already just tried it. This may be the last election that we can really pull this off. Maine and Nebraska are super unique. We only need to get 250,000 votes in either of those states. Omaha, Nebraska is its own electoral vote. It's very achievable, even with limited resources. And as a marketer and a businessman, I look for the way to spend your money the best with the most effect. And I feel like this is the best thing that we can do to get national attention for the Libertarian Party. That's great. I got a plan. It could be successful. Awesome. But Lars, are you actually a libertarian? Do you actually hate the state? do you want to reduce the state in our lives? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. I grew up in poverty. I went on to found a bunch of big companies, Friend Finder Networks, which I grew to 600 employees doing $350 million dollars a year in sales. And I've run a bunch of companies. So that gives me kind of the expertise to do this. But more importantly, I got audited by the IRS multiple times. I learned how corrupt the IRS is, and it's on my top priority to get rid of the corrupt IRS. I became a libertarian through Ross Perot and Ron Paul talking about we have to reduce the debt and we have to reduce the deficit and we have to abolish the Federal Reserve, which I believe is one of the most corrupt agencies that we could possibly ever have, which is a non-government agency, private corporations that have a built-in mandate to devalue the currency in your pocket every 40 years. I've had my run-ins with the public education system. I've had my run-ins with the criminal justice system, affecting my family, not necessarily me, but my mom was growing marijuana when I was young, and she was arrested and has had to face a lot of problems around that. And when she was 70 years old, she was trying to go through a military base, and they pulled her over and like interrogated her for like 5 hours because she was a threat to America, apparently, or something like that. So I just want to like reduce the government in our lives. I believe that the government shouldn't tell you what forks you should use, what straws you should use, what you should put in your body, who your partners are, all that kind of stuff. I just think that the government is way, way too big. I look for a limited government. Some libertarians want to have no government at all, and some libertarians want to have like 6 people running the government, but we should all move in that direction. And when we get to the last 6 people, we can argue over whether we need 6 people or not. So yeah, I'm committed to doing this plan. I've put about $800,000 of my own money into this campaign so far. If I get the nomination, I'm committing another $1 million of my own capital to see this plan through. I think it's achievable, but I need the delegates to vote for me in Washington, D.C. to let me do this thing. And I believe that this is the best way to grow our party, to bring new people into the movement, and to get a lot of donations that we have and get our message out to the most people possible. Look, the other thing I want to say is that a lot of people say, well, Lars, you're focused on Maine and Nebraska. I want to run a national campaign. I want to do this. And so I want to make clear that I intend to run the same national campaign that all the other candidates are running, and I'm going to win these 2 states. It's not an either or thing. I've run big companies. I can certainly do all of those things. And my main goal in running a national campaign is to give all the down ballot candidates the cover that they need, the attention that they need, the media attention that they need. And I believe that as we move forward in causing this contingent election, it becomes more clear to the media that this is a real likely possibility. They will be talking about libertarians a lot, and that we might completely spoil this rotten election. And that will get attention for people like Michael White and Fina Benoa and guys in Texas and guys in Pennsylvania that are running, guys in New Jersey, that sort of thing. We need the attention on them, because change is going to come for the Libertarian Party at the local level. It's not going to come from me winning president. But the presidency is super important for fundraising, growing the party, delivering our message, helping the down ballot candidates, and ballot access, which I'm super into. Obviously Larry talked about Maine, but there's also a movement right now with Harrison Kemp from Maine. He's working with Pat Ford right now in Rhode Island to get rid of ballot access laws there. And I'm going to be backing them to do that across many states, because I think that we shouldn't have to run a marathon to get to the starting line before we actually can start campaigning. They drain us of our resources. I'll finish up with, like Larry said, we have put together a huge bunch of policy. One of the main policies that I'm really excited about is the Voters' Bill of Rights, which levels the playing field and restores integrity and faith to our election system. There's a lot of Americans right now that are super pissed off. They feel disenfranchised. They feel their vote doesn't count. And when people don't feel like they have a voice, they basically start rioting. And that's, I believe, why we saw the George Floyd riots and we saw the January 6th activity, because basically people are pissed off and they don't feel like they're being heard by their government. I want to hold government accountable, and I want to reduce the power of president and return it to Congress so that they can do their job. So please vote for me in Washington, D.C. in 2 weeks. It's just 2 weeks left. So I'm really looking for people's vote to implement this plan and put us on the map. Thank you.
So if you want to ask questions, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. And I'll also check the chats for questions as well. So Amanda asked in the chat, if you get the nomination, how do you push back on the Republican light label put on the party with the news surrounding convention? There are candidates in my very blue county fighting it already.
Yeah. So I think we have to position this that Trump is running scared. That the reason Trump is coming to the Libertarian Party is because he knows that we are the deciding factor. This isn't about us marrying Trump or us backing Trump. This is about Trump coming to our convention because he's afraid that we're actually going to cause him the election again. And you can see that too. That's the same reason Kennedy was coming. He wanted ballot access, but he also is coming for our vote. And you saw Vivek, who's also coming to our convention. He went to Pork Fest. I was at Pork Fest. And these guys are all basically, humping our leg, trying to get our vote. And we need to tell them that they are not libertarians. They might have a libertarian idea or two, but that does not make them libertarian. We need to reduce the state. And they are clearly, all of them, in favor of increasing the state in one shape or another, whereas the libertarians are always against increasing the state.
I do want to add on, if I could, a little bit. You're right. People will always think we're the opposite of whatever they are. Happens all the time. It's called the one-word story, right? Oh, I can't vote for that guy because he's this. I can't vote for her because she's that. They're going to do that. We can't get around that. What can we do is when they actually talk to us, show them that we're not Trump. Exactly what Lars is talking about. When they see us and when they watch us, when they're actually watching us on debates, when they're watching us on TV, when they're watching us on YouTube, when they're watching us on Twitter, show them that we're not Trump, and that will shock them. They'll go, wait a minute. I thought these guys were just Trump-like. Wait a minute. Oh, they're not? Huh. So they actually don't want to just increase the debt like Trump did. They don't just want to just build a wall like Trump did. They don't want to do the same. Oh, that's different. That actually can make us better, right? Because remember something, the most zealous are the converted. If we convert these people, they will go out and get more people for us.
Yep. It looks like Thomas has a question there.
Rob Coburn was first, and then I'll ask Thomas's.
Okay, great.
Hey, I'm taking care of something. Come back to me later. I'll jump back in.
Okay, so Thomas's question is, your site indicates you support a national sales tax. Is this still as it was in an older press release? The fair tax that would put every man, woman, and child in the U.S. on a monthly federal welfare check for life.
Yeah. So I guess I should be really clear about where I'm trying to go, which is my main goal in all this is to abolish the IRS. And the fair tax is one avenue for abolishing the IRS. It is not the panacea. It is not like my preferred thing. I would just like to get rid of the IRS altogether. But when you say, I want to get rid of the IRS and you have no plan on how to get rid of the IRS, it's kind of an empty promise. So while the fair tax is not my preferred thing, it is one plan it is the only plan that I know of that's in front of Congress right now as a bill that could move forward. Look, my end goal is to have no taxation. So if Congress comes to me and says, Lars, we can reduce taxes by 10%, and that's all we can do, I'm not going to tell them, no, I want 100% get rid of taxes or nothing. I'm going to take the 10% and keep beating on them to get them down to as low as close to zero as possible. But my main goal is to abolish the IRS because I feel like we spend an inordinate amount of time, energy, and dollars complying with this system. And I don't think anybody should go to prison because they filed a piece of paper wrong or they didn't keep the right books. So I'm looking at different scenarios, different ways of, funding the limited government that we have to have. And I'm open to any suggestion that anybody has. If they have a really good plan, I'm open to looking at that.
Sorry, I had lost cell reception for a second, but I made Rob post so we didn't lose anything. Did we have anyone, or Rob, are you ready to ask her question, or should we go to?
I am picking up my daughter at the moment.
Okay.
So I just need a couple minutes.
Yep. Sounds good. Adam, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
I am, of course, in favor of abolishing the IRS, but I resist wonky temptations to try and fix, quote unquote, our taxation system with things like a fair tax or a flat tax or a blah, 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 because I think in an era where we have a Federal Reserve that can monetize any debt the Treasury Department wants to spend, the point is to make sure that we are arguing that the government spends less. The taxation questions is almost irrelevant to that. And I would like to point out that historically in this country and every other, you have never seen a tax replaced with another tax. You are simply seeing the addition of another tax.
Can I touch this for a second, if you don't mind, Lars? Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Adam, your point's well taken. I think you're right, but there are a couple things that you want to bring up here. And I tell this story often. My day job is I'm a trainer. That's what I do. I'm a corporate trainer, and I train a lot of city agencies. I train large corporations, tech, law, and finance. And one thing I was doing one day is I was actually training a group of people from a New York City agency. Imagine a room full of people who are all educated and all credentialed. The youngest is maybe 30, the oldest is maybe 60, about 30 people. That's the room. I never talked about politics unless it was during a break and somebody asked. Otherwise, I did my job and I shut up. During a break, one of the guys is talking and goes, I am so glad we have a Fed. The Fed saved us during the 2008 crisis. I know some of your heads just exploded, but they actually said that. That actually was said. And when that was said, I kept my mouth shut. And then somebody then said, hey, Larry, you're into politics. That's right, isn't it? And I was like, well, now you messed up because now I can say something. So all I said to them was, you guys know the Fed is basically a banking cartel for the private banks, right? They're like, no, it isn't. It's part of the government. I said, no, it's basically just a private banking cartel. I said, you have your phones. Google it now. They Googled it. And obviously you hear, oh, what? None of them knew that. I want to be clear. None of them, 30 educated and credentialed Americans in New York City, did not know that the Fed was a banking cartel. I said, it just makes money, right? No, it doesn't. Check it. They start checking out. Oh my God, Larry's right. Why do I tell you this story? Because while you are correct, Adam, you are right. The vast majority of Americans are nowhere near that, not even close. They are so far away from that, they can't even imagine what you're saying. The conversations required to do what you want, which, by the way, I agree with, and I know Lars also agrees with, are nowhere near possible having until we start talking the right talk with the right people. And my view here is any conversation on ending the IRS is an amazing conversation. The vast majority of Americans to this day still think, and will tell you, and this, again, this is literally in polling, if you check yourself, they still believe that taxation is the only way to having a civilized society. The only way. They cannot imagine anything else. When I talked about leasing naming rights to bridges in New York City, it blew people's minds that you could actually have a private company pay for maintenance on a bridge used by the public. Duh, for libertarians, blowing the mind of these people. But now they're thinking differently. And I have people from all parts now thinking, maybe there's other options other than taxation. Maybe there are other options. Oh my God. And I feel like while this isn't perfect, you're correct. Everything you said is correct. Also, as much as I love Lars, the odds of him becoming president and acting on any of these things are pretty slim. But can he bring up the right conversations so that guys like you and me who are running in the next 4 years can have serious conversations on the debate stage? Yes. I hope at least that was clear where my head is on that, Adam.
Yeah, it is. I appreciate the answer. I just know how these things work. It tends to be that when you make an advocation for an extra kind of tax, the only thing that tends to be heard is, yeah, you're right. That is a great way to tax. And again, if you aren't solving the desire and appetite for the American populace for the spending of government, you aren't fixing anything, because again, they can always print it, and inflation is the ultimate tax.
And I'll add one more piece. If you notice what Lars's policy talk about, he also talks about ending the Fed. So it isn't only that, it is that and ending the Fed. We are talking about literally having, I think if I remember his quote right, he wants to hire Ron Paul as the last Fed chairman, right? So that's we do want to end the Fed 100%. And we want to have people thinking about, just because we end the Fed, now we don't want them relying on taxation now. So we now have to make sure that they're thinking both ways to do both.
Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Yeah.
It's a little less wonky, but I mean, I do remember in 08 and 012, Ron Paul would say, okay, we have an addiction to spending. Let's try and wean ourselves off by abandoning the federal empire of spending and use those proceeds to, again, wean ourselves off of the domestic spending that we've grown addicted to. Wouldn't that be a better lever to pull than this? I mean, I don't want to call it a bait and switch because that's not honest, but this, I'll get rid of the IRS and I'll institute a fair tax instead. Isn't it better to say we need less spending? Here's a thing that we can for sure spend less on because
now I'm sure you have not read his website, Adam, because that's also on the website. Everything you're saying is on. He has all the policies on all the pieces. I know because I wrote half of them. So yes, 100%.
No, of course we want to cut spending across the board, but more importantly, the other way, you always hear this: how do we get rid of the federal deficit? How do we get rid of the federal debt? And you'll hear, well, we have to cut spending or we have to raise taxes. But I have a third option, and the third option is to massively grow GDP. By massively growing GDP, we can still cut taxes or get taxes as low as possible and still be paying off this massive debt that we have. And how we're going to do that is we are going to basically encourage an energy race and reduce the cost of energy. We're going to abolish the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. We're going to be allowing for lots of different energy policies to come forward and let the market generate the assets and generate the reduction in the price of energy, which is going to greatly boost our GDP and is going to bring a lot of jobs in and a lot of corporations in, because most everything that we touch in our lives is touched by energy. And this is also a big way of reducing inflation, because everything that we do in life is touched by the cost of energy. And if the cost of energy was reduced by 50%, that would drastically reduce the input cost of corporations, and therefore it would start reducing the cost of some of these things that we are having to pay for way too much money, which is the main thing that everybody's concerned about right now in America, which is the economy. It's the economy, stupid. It seems to be always the economy, right? So so there's a bunch of pieces that we have. And look, I want to say that I think that my ideals for libertarianism are the same as everyone else as far as the North Star. I want to get to no taxation. I want to get to abolishing the Fed. I want to get to bringing our troops home. I want to, end the failed war on drugs completely. So there's a lot of things. I want to get rid of Social Security. I want to get rid of reliance on the state, because government breeds mediocrity, and the more government we have, the more mediocre we become. But I also understand that we don't wave a magic wand and get to the North Star and all these things magically disappear because I wish them to be. That we have to have an actual plan to get there. And so what I'm looking for is plans. And if anybody presents me with a plan that gets me to the North Star that I'm trying to get to, I will absolutely look at it, and I will absolutely consider implementing that to get us to the point where we don't have taxes and we don't have the stupid government breathing down our neck and telling us how to live our lives and what forks we can use and what straws we can use and all that kind of stuff, because it's ridiculous. The government is just so overbroad. And we were just talking about it, you and I, on the last thing, where the government is just in our lives in every way, shape, or form. And sometimes they are taking away our freedoms one drop at a time, and sometimes they just cleave a giant cleaver through our lives and start spying on us again with no warrants, right? So we need to get to that North Star, but we have to have a plan to get there.
No, you're absolutely right. There's only one thing I'd like to add as a caveat, maybe, or an addendum. A lot of times when we policy wonks talk about the way government should be structured, one of the things that we forget about is that government is looked upon as the answer to all social ills because it has crowded out all of the other private institutions that used to exist and should exist
100%.
if we
100%.
did not rely on government. And I really would hope, in fact, I'll fucking tell you,
Tell me.
a presidential candidate that I will get behind is going to be a guy who champions these private institutions for social
So
healing that are
let me
not
touch
the
this,
government.
Adam, if I can. If you watch what I've been talking about for years, I don't use the words private institution because people, particularly on the left, they hear, oh, that means private companies take all your money. That's what they hear. So I don't say that. The word I use is community. What I say is we want community solutions. Every time you add government, you by default remove community. I want to add community so we can remove government. When I say that, people go, that makes sense. I like that, Larry. So I'm with you, Adam. I'm taking a little bit of umbrage with your phrase because I know how certain parts of America, what they hear when you say that, but everybody likes the word community. And if I understood what you said, you actually meant community. You meant local people.
Dude, you're not wrong, but community is society. I mean, we only
Correct.
evolved to understand and to relate to like what 150 to 250 people.
100%.
That's our genome. So
That's the reason why military companies are that size. Correct. That's the reason. You are correct.
So when I say society, I mean community. That's what we're evolved to understand on an emotional level and an intellectual level.
Yep. I'm with you, brother. We're on the same page.
Rob, go ahead.
All right. So I'm glad Larry brought this up so that I think all starting from the same page. I don't think any of us have high expectations for a win in the presidential office. So our presidential candidates campaign can do a number of things. One of those, hopefully at the top, is being a delivery mechanism for our message. Lars, I'm not too familiar with your positions, although I'm sure I can find everything on your website. So I won't ask you about that, but I want to know if one of the primary areas where we can gain ground through this campaign is delivering a message. Where are you going to deliver this message and how? Where and how are you going to deliver it? We know we're not going to get time on the legacy, the mainstream, the corporate, whatever you want to call it, any of those platforms. Where will you deliver this message? What are your avenues?
Yeah,
we already got mainstream. Hold on, we have CNN Smircanos already. We got some we already got some, Rob. We already got some. Just saying. Go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
Well, just to that point, when we were in Maine this week announcing Larry as the VP, I did 4 or 5 radio shows and a television show in 4 days while we were going. I went on again Julie Mason show on Sirius XM. So I am getting that kind of stuff. But look, my background is social media marketing. I built a company called Legendary Speed, which was primarily around my hobby of racing cars and collecting cars. And I was able to grow that to 25 million fans on Facebook. I am an expert at getting guerrilla marketing, getting the message out there. And I am currently running ads on X. I don't know if you are on X, but as I travel all around the country, people are telling me like, why don't you stop advertising? I'm sick of seeing your ads all over the place. And that's, that is my expertise. And so I've already reached over 50 million people just on direct advertising on Twitter in the last, 9 months or so. And I've been doing that on Facebook. I've literally spent hundreds of millions of dollars on Google AdWords in my life, on Friend Finder Networks, we signed up 3 million subscribers. Imagine if I was able to sign up 3 million libertarians, right? These were people that paid me. 3 million paid subscribers. Imagine if those people were actually signing up as libertarians and they didn't have to pay us anything, or maybe they would, maybe give us $20 a month to get that freedom. So that was a big part of why I wanted to run for president, is because I believe that I have the ability to get our message out to more people than any of the other candidates. All the other candidates are great. They all have good messaging. Maybe they vary on 1 or 2 points, or they're not, I'm at 80% and they're at 90% or whatever it is. But the thing is if you can't get your message out to people, it doesn't matter what your message is. If you're, not able to market to Twitter and reach 50 million people, and all you can do is talk to people in a park on a bus tour, you're not going to reach and grow the party. And so that's why I believe that I am actually the best candidate, because I'm the only candidate right now with a plan for after the nomination. Ask any of the other candidates what are they going to do. They're going to say, I'm going to run a 50-state campaign. I'm going to help out these people, and we're going to get donors, and we're going to use the money to get our message out there. But none of them have an actual plan to cause national chaos on election night, which is what I have. My whole plan is to shove a giant middle finger at the duopoly and get every American to be like, oh my God, the libertarians completely fucked this election. They completely screwed it up. And what the hell is a libertarian, by the way? Because I thought they were MAGAs who smoked dope, or I thought they were libtards because they have the word lib in libertarian. So, I believe that I'm the one that can get the message out there the most. I firmly believe that. And I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. I'm coming to the table with $1 million more than any of the other candidates because I'm self-funding. And so just that alone will get our message out far more than what any of the other candidates are doing.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the after, what you do afterwards. And if I could add a follow-up. We saw all the millions of votes that the Libertarian Party received in the Johnson Weld campaign. None of those turned into members. None of those turned into memberships or sustaining libertarians. The Jorgensen campaign all similarly failed to inspire new libertarians. What is your plan? How are you going to turn the attention you get into sustained libertarian support?
Yeah.
Let me jump in real fast before you get
sure.
there. Just I want to wrap this up here. Rob, I love what you just said so much. I cannot tell you how much I love what you just said. One of the reasons why I tried to become the VP in 2016 was because I knew that after Gary Johnson ran, he'd walk away. I knew he would. I knew Bill Weld would walk away, and they both did. And that happens every year. It's a one and done. They run. Great. Thank you for all the stuff you gave me. I'm out. That happens constantly. From 2016, all the people who are on that stage, VP nominees and president nominees, there's only one guy left. You're looking at him. I'm the only one left. I'm the one who stayed. I'm the one who helps people still. I'm the one who goes to raise money for people. I'm the one who does it, right? And Lars has told me he will do that too. He will also be here. He will also be helping. And he's got plans. He's going to tell you in a second. I just want to say that because I love what you said. You are right. This cannot be one and done. Everyone else is going to be one and done. Lars will not be. I'm sorry, Lars, go ahead.
Yeah. I think, I wish I could tell you that I'm like the ultimate savior for the Libertarian Party, and I'm going to come in with the most base messaging, and I'm going to convert the masses instantaneously. But I think what we're looking at here is a slow growth of the party, that each time that we do this, we're getting incrementally more. And there's a certain point where the dam breaks, where we have, we're pushing against the dam, we're pushing against the state, we're telling people that the state is bad. Look, what I think is the Libertarian Party is actually very effective. A lot of people don't understand, but we've been talking about ending the drug war for a long time. We've been talking about decriminalizing marijuana for a very long time. That is now mainstream. We have been talking about ending the Federal Reserve. We've been talking about, reducing the state, getting rid of the bureaucracy for a very long time. Donald Trump started parroting that. And then Vivek started taking that to another level. And I believe that the reason why they're able to even talk about that is because we shifted the Overton window with our messaging over time. And so we just have to continue on with our message that limited government is the answer to a free society, is the answer to allowing people to not be so divided in America. And like I said, I wish I had, I could just wave a magic wand and everybody would be there. But here's the other thing. Imagine if Gary Johnson hadn't run and hadn't grown the party to the certain point that he had, would we just be shrinking all the time? Did he add nothing? I don't believe that he added nothing. I believe that he added something, and some of those people stuck around. There is a lot of people when I go to conventions that say, I came in because of Gary Johnson. I see that.
To be forward,
all the time.
I came in because Gary Johnson too. Okay. And I want to bring up something else. Amanda brought up that Spike is still here. I said from 2016, to be clear. I didn't say from 2020. From 2020, Spike did stay, and I love the fact that he did. I do love the fact. I'm a big Spike fan, love Spike, but Spike's not running this time. Spike's not running this time, right? But Spike is from 2020. My point was from 2016, from 8 years ago. But Lars, if you could please do me a favor, tell them about your three projects, your couple of projects for after the election.
Yeah.
He's already got plans for after the election, guys, already. Not just for after the nomination, but for after the election, please.
Yeah. And actually in that last town happy hour, Adam and I were talking about that in there. You know, one of the things that we kind of discovered was that there's not an easy way to do donors, to get fundraising in the Libertarian Party. And I started looking around and realizing that one of the ways that the duopoly gets so much money is they use Act Blue and Win Red. That's basically a database. It's a giant, they have Facebook database basically, so they can target people that have been donors before on Facebook. You can do targeted audiences there. The same thing on Twitter. And so what I want to build is like a libertarian version of Act Blue or Win Red, which would be Go Gold. It's a big ask, it's a big task, but I think that it's a long-term thing that we should be pushing for. And secondly, I've been in like 14 or 15 national polls at this point, and that was sort of by guerrilla marketing. Larry and I bought one poll early on, and it didn't really have very much effect, and I was quite dissatisfied with it. But fortunately, I had been doing some guerrilla marketing, and the Wall Street Journal ran a poll on me. And as soon as the Wall Street Journal ran a poll on me, it legitimized me, and I started connecting with on social media all the different pollsters, and I was making sure that my name was in front of the pollsters nonstop and the media that is around polling, and they started putting me in the polls. But what I realized was if you're not in the polls as a libertarian, you literally don't exist according to the media. As soon as I started getting in the polls, all the media started writing there like, and Lars Mapstead, the libertarian candidate, is 2%. And Lars Mapstead, the libertarian candidate, is polling 5% in Arizona and whatever. And I thought, holy crap, what we need is a polling company that we control, that we can then put in the local candidates into the polls. So if you're running for Congress in Pennsylvania and they come to us and they said, we'll do a poll, sure, I'll include the Democrat and the Republican, but I'm also going to include the Libertarian. And that suddenly gives you credibility. That suddenly means you're real to them. Even if it's a couple of percent, they see that name, they see that L, and they're like, what the hell is that? Maybe I should check that out, right? So that's a very important piece. And the final thing that I've kind of come up with was, after doing Maine, and I don't know if you guys know the whole story about Maine ballot access, but essentially the Secretary of State deleted all the libertarians off the voter rolls. There was literally no libertarians in Maine, period, done. And so they had to sue the state. The judge said, you're right, we shouldn't have deleted them. They called them stale. The libertarians were all stale, but there was no stale Democrats or Republicans, just the libertarians were stale. I guess we were on the shelf too long or something like that. And so they didn't restore the people. So there was literally no party anymore in Maine. And to become a major party again, we had to get 10,000 registered voters, not signatures, but registered voters. And that's a really high task, especially in a small populous state as Maine. And so Harrison Kemp, along with his team, he's the chair of Maine, sued Maine, and were able to get them to reduce that from 10,000 voters down to 5,000 voters. So they literally cut the ballot access law in half. And that is the reason why we were able to do what we did, because I would have had to put in $50 or $60 or $70,000, and we wouldn't have had enough time to actually get it done. So if he hadn't have sued and got that changed, we wouldn't have major party status in Maine. And now anybody can run in Maine. They don't have to get signatures or anything. They just go put their name on the ballot and they're good to go. Turns out that there are about 13 or 14 states that Harrison Kemp believes he can sue to reduce ballot access. And he's working with Pat Ford right now in Rhode Island. I donated to a PAC that Pat Ford has set up in order to reduce ballot access in Rhode Island. And I want to back Harrison Kemp and get a team together to go and reduce ballot access, because why should we keep paying every year to access the ballot when we could actually just reduce that ballot access one time and be getting the dividends over the long period of time from that activity? I'd rather spend all our money even if we forego ballot access 1 year, I'd rather spend all that money getting the law drastically reduced so that for all the years to come, we don't have to spend that money, and we can take that money instead and use it on our candidates, on getting our message out, on flyers and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you both. And if I could leave with one parting thought, there's many, particularly in Pennsylvania, who believe our fight. If you could find a way to incorporate a call to action, to get involved at the state and local level and introduce the concept of nullification, I think it would go a long way with delegates here in Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very much in favor of nullification for sure. That's definitely a thing. You know, we should have that right. And I was watching just on jury nullification specifically, that there was a thing where the people were going into the bathrooms of the courthouse and writing on the walls in Sharpie that you have the right to nullification. I thought that was pretty impressive, and kind of a guerrilla tactic to get that done.
So I got a couple questions from the
like it.
I got a couple questions from the chat. So they're kind of related, so I'll just ask all three within themselves. So one question was, do you plan to reach out to non-libertarians in Nebraska? And what was it? Maine and Nebraska. And then as a follow, also, if you get the nomination, do you pledge to help the states who are still petitioning to finish their ballot access drive? Virginia is not part of your plan to stop 270, but we still want a libertarian on the ballot in November. And finally, this same person, a follow-up to my other question, I am a placeholder for Virginia and therefore am not eligible to seek the nomination for POTUS or VP. How are you getting around this since Larry is a placeholder for New York?
Absolutely.
So can I touch that last one, because that one's me?
Yep, sure, go for it.
Yeah. I do not believe that the rules that were made for vice president and president swapped. What I mean by that is they were made for someone who's trying to become president in a state, and then they're not the presidential candidate. They decide to keep themselves on as president. I'm not running for president. So I am a presidential placeholder in New York, but I'm running for vice president. So I don't believe that is true. And how will we know if it's true? The body will decide. The body can decide that I am wrong and not let me be and not let me be nominated. They can do so if they want to, or the body can say that I can be that I can actually be a placeholder and have that. The body will decide either way, and it can decide that I can't be there. But the other piece is, to be forward, in reality, yeah, it's funny. This is delegate nullification. It's nullification. Exactly what we're talking about. Nullification. It is. But the reality of it is, I may actually not be a placeholder. And what I mean by that is, it's looking like New York State is not going to even be able to get ballot access at all. It's not looking good for New York right now. It's looking terrible. So I may not even be a placeholder after all. So this may be a mooted point. But that's my view, and people can decide how they feel in any way they want.
Yeah. And then the other piece is about reaching people, you know, different kinds of people in Maine and Nebraska. Right now, I went to Nebraska last week before going to Maine and recorded a bunch of radio spots. I'm literally running radio spots right now all over Nebraska, because the primary for Nebraska is coming up here shortly, and we're making a big push for that. We've also bought texting. Phone texting, and we are literally doing 130,000 phone texts right now into Nebraska. And so we're spending a lot of money and time and energy right now trying to get the message out there to people. And it's not just libertarians, it's definitely Republicans and Democrats. And the ads were pretty spicy. And what was really great is I walked into the first radio station to carve the spot, and the guy's like, "Hey, my name is Animal." And I'm like, "Okay, hey, Animal." And he's like, "I'm a libertarian." I was like, "Cool, bro." And so we go into the recording studio, and he's recording the spot, and he's like, I said, I said a line or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, bro, that wasn't good enough. You got to really hit this. We got to make this kick ass because I want you to win. I want you to I want you to convert these people." And so we went through, and he made just a spicy ad. But basically, we're talking about how the Nebraska politicians have lied to the people over and over and over again, more times than I can count. And they've lied on marijuana, and they've lied on criminal justice, and they lied on their taxes. And for them, it's just another day at the office. And so, we had a really great pitch for basically going out and voting third party and letting and making Nebraska count again. And I think that's one of the messages that I really like to get out across the country is that a lot of people feel their vote doesn't matter, that they're disenfranchised. Why should I even bother? It's just too, corrupt crap, corporate duopoly thing. And I think that we need to let people know that their voice and vote especially can matter in this election, because it could cause this contingent election. And it could cause both Donald Trump and Joe Biden to lose on election night. And everywhere I go, people are like, I love the chaos of that. I love the anarchy of that, of just complete, screw the system. We broke the system. It hasn't been done in 200 years. Let's get this thing going. And so the final piece on this is that I believe that there are big donors out there that don't care about, Joe Biden or Donald Trump, but they would really like to see a big middle finger at the system. And there's people willing to pay for that. And there's people willing to put money into super PAC for that thing. And I believe that that money will come to us, and we will get people that are not libertarians donating to us to try to cause this contingent election. Not only that, but here's the other thing. In one of the states, I think it was like Montana or Wyoming or something like that, one of the candidates got $500,000 donated to them either in 2020 or 2022 by either the Democrats or the Republicans, and they donated it to that candidate because they thought that that candidate was going to be the margin of error in the election. And so they were gaming the system by funding the libertarian, and it worked. And so I believe that we might actually get money from both the Democrats and the Republicans trying to stop this contingent election.
Okay, and then just to follow up, the other question was, if you get the nomination, do you pledge to help the states who are still petitioning to finish their ballot access drive? Virginia is not part of your plan to stop 270, but we still want a libertarian on the ballot in November. That's from the chair of LP Virginia.
Yeah, absolutely. My goal, like I just said, is that last piece there where I want to go around to different states and get ballot access reduced so that we can get on the ballot. And if you look at my Voters Bill of Rights, that's the number one thing in the Voters Bill of Rights, is to level the playing field and reduce ballot access for all candidates across the country. So I'm totally committed to trying to get ballot access in the states, and also winning enough presidential percentage in order so that we can get to that 5%. I would love to get to the 5%. I don't know if it's achievable, but if there is any path forward to getting 5%, it's through winning this 270 and causing this contingent election and getting people really excited about the Libertarian Party. I don't believe any of the other candidates have a plan to do anything different than we have done for the last 50 years. And so I expect the results to be the same as we have gotten, or less, because Kennedy is in the room sucking up all the money and all the extra votes. We normally get the protest vote, and we're not going to get the protest vote as much this time, because a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to go with that Kennedy guy because he has a big name and he's got more traction than you, and I want to see if maybe he can do something, more than what you guys are going to do. So it's going to be a big problem for money, and it's going to be a big problem for votes in this cycle. We have to do something totally outside the box, and that's what this Stop 270 is all about.
Perfect. I'm gonna have Patrick go first, just because he hasn't asked a question yet, and then Adam, you can go after Patrick.
Thank you guys, man. And thank you both for being here to answer questions and stuff. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure we all do. I was just curious. I have a question for both.
Whoop, you went mute. You muted.
Patrick, you muted yourself, brother.
Patrick, you're muted.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Check.
Yep, we got you.
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, we can hear you.
He's just teasing us.
Just type in there that you can hear it there.
Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I couldn't hear you guys for some reason. I don't know what happened. But anyway, the question for Lars is, the presidential race seems pretty tight among the delegates and stuff. So what is your plan to kind of set yourself apart from the other candidates and, get that nomination? And then for Larry, do you plan to debate with Vivek? And obviously you're really sharp, really well, so is Vivek. And how do you feel about that opportunity? And what are you doing to prepare? Because obviously Vivek is really articulate. So yeah, just for both of you, and thank you both again.
When it comes to Vivek, I have already been in debates with Republicans, Democrats when I ran for governor in 2018 and 2022. So I've already been in debate stage. I'm the guy who's already been on all the high pressure. I'm the guy who's been in Joe Rogan. I've moderated more debates than Vivek's been in. So I have moderated more debates. I've been on the debate stage. I've been there already 1,000 times. That's not an issue. And I'm the policy guy. He's not going to be able to get around me at all. I've been part of the Debate Bros on YouTube. I've debated the people on the Debate Bros. So I'm not concerned. But of course, you are correct. I will do my homework to make sure I know what I'm talking about. And the best part about it is, this is the greatest part about this. And this kind of goes back to the question about me being the VP. If Lars wins and I beat Vivek, I think you guys will make me the VP. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I can't see you now. If those two things happen, I can't see you guys like, nah, I don't. So I'm not that concerned. But the best part about it is people are going to show up, and this is going to be a mainstream, right? To the point we were talking about earlier about you're not going to get mainstream press. A lot of people, particularly the CNNs and MSNBCs of the world, they hate Vivek. They hate Vivek. They hate him. If I beat him up at all, that's going to be on MSNBC. That's going to be on CNN. That's going to be in New York Times. We are going to get the press that we want just by that. So to answer your question, I am super excited about it. I cannot wait. It's going to be amazing. Yes.
Yeah. And I think, there's been a lot of people asking, who would you like to debate Vivek? And the two top people that in the Libertarian Party that people would like to have to debate Vivek is Larry Sharpe or Spike Cohen. Those are the two top people. And it just so happens that we have a guy right here that is probably going to end up being the guy that debates Vivek. So I'm super excited about that, because one of the main reasons I chose Larry Sharpe as my VP is because he lives and breathes this stuff every day. He does multiple talk shows every day. He's on the radio spreading the message of liberty, and he's not spreading it to libertarians or to delegates. He's talking to crazy leftists in New York City. He's talking to people that are super right-wing Republican, and he's getting our message across to people. He is the guy that can deliver our message to regular people, and that is why I brought him on board. I don't think there's anybody in the Libertarian Party that has the ability to message to regular people better than Larry Sharpe. He has a way of bringing in empathy and understanding with people so that they get on the same level as him, so that they understand where he's at, and that they know that he understands where they're at. And once you get to that place, you can start having a conversation, because most of the time when libertarians come at people, they're like, you're the evil guys that love corporations. You're the evil guys that want to get rid of my roads. You want to get rid of my police departments and all that kind of stuff. And we have to have a messenger that can actually talk to people and meet them where they're at. And I think Larry Sharpe is by far and away one of the best messengers of the Libertarian Party. And so that's why I brought him on board.
And also, I do want to say kudos to Spike. I've seen Spike debate. Also amazing. I think Spike could also do a great job. But again, Spike's not running. But yes, Spike could do a great job.
And I agree with you, TJ. Dave Smith would also be a good choice for debating.
Oh, yes, I did see that. Yes,
of course.
Dave
Of course.
Yep.
Of course he would be good. I mean, I've watched a number of his debates, and he definitely holds his own and kind of crushes people. I can't disagree with that.
Yep. But they're not running.
True story.
No, I just think it'd be funny to throw in Vivek's face how he wants to bomb Mexico.
Yes. I mean, it's ridiculous that he wants to basically create a war against Mexico in order to fix the border crisis. Like, I mean, could you pick any more authoritarian thing than that? Or the thing that I also take umbrage with is his want to basically force everybody to go into the military in order to be able to vote in America. I think that that is just totally atrocious. You know, all these guys have gross stuff. Like Kennedy has this thing where he basically wants us to get back into the housing market with the United States, because apparently he forgot about 2008 because it didn't affect him because he's, you know, super wealthy and has his thing. But he wants us to give 3% loans to everybody in America on the government dime. We can all see where that would go really quick if we were, you know, throwing out.
There's a movie about it now.
It's ridiculous, man. So they're these guys. I think we're gonna do a good job at tearing these guys up. I'm also preparing if I have to give the rebuttal to Trump. And we're picking all the pieces that we want to say where they're not that, but also that they broke all their promises. They told us they were going to drain the swamp. They told us that they were going to, you know, fix all these things, that they're going to get the budget down, and and then they just went ahead and did all the exact opposite stuff. And I think the thing that we really have to hold them to is like, sure, you make all these promises, you say you're going to do all this great stuff, and then you don't deliver. Why should any of us believe that you're going to deliver on these things now? You had 4 years to do all this stuff and you didn't do it. Biden had 4 years to do all this stuff and he didn't do it. And the same goes on and for all these other presidents. So, you know, we can't trust anything that you say. And so anything coming out of your mouth is basically a lie. And you can tell us that you're going to reduce the debt, but you didn't do it before. You added $8 trillion freaking dollars of debt, more than any other president in my lifetime, right? So, and then that literally caused all this inflation that we're suffering under. And his, you know, I could go on and on about all the red flag laws they did and all that kind of stuff that is just ridiculous. Gun grabbing, not a pro 2A person. But for me, I believe that there should only be one federal law related to guns, and that is the Second Amendment, and that's it, period. We don't need anything else. You know, and so we can be a lot stronger and a lot firmer on our positions than these guys can be. And they will be wishy-washy because they can't go hardcore like we will, because if they go hardcore like we will, they will start losing their base. So we can push them in the direction of liberty, but they're going to have to stop short of where we're at. There's no way Donald Trump is going to say I'm willing to abolish the IRS. It's just he'll just say something like, well, that's a clown show, that'll never happen, blah 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 blah.
I do want to ask one question, if I could, before we go to if you're okay with that, Adam, just because we hit on it. So under your policy on your website, it says simplify border security. Instead of numerous unnecessary checks, create a simplified border security approach that reviews immigrants for violence and crime, terrorist affiliations, and health, making it possible for anyone who wants to enter this country legally and quickly to do so. What does that policy look like to you?
Yeah. So
Describe
right now we have something like 21 different visas to get in to America, and the system is just so overloaded that there's no ability to process anybody. So they just hand you a card and say, come back in like 3 years and we'll figure it out. That's essentially the system that we have right now. And that's because it's just overly complex. If you want to become a citizen in the United States, you can talk to Spike Cohen, and you know, his wife was from Canada, and she had a lot of problems. My treasurer, his wife is from Philippines, and she had a hard time getting in. It took 5 or 6 or 7 years. It seems to me kind of ridiculous if you're marrying a U.S. citizen that it should take 5 or 6 years in order to get processed through the system. When I was running my tech company, we could not get any worker visas at all. They have these, I don't know, can't remember the name of it, 501B visa or something like that. And essentially the big tech companies, Google and Microsoft, get all those, and all the little companies that are scrapping for talent basically get shafted by this government system. I live in California next to where there's huge farms. I have friends that run farms that have migrant workers and have had them all of my life, kind of a thing. So there is a need for workers in America. We have a demographic problem going on right now where baby boomers are retiring faster than new employees are coming into the system, and there's no way to really fix that. You can't like start making a lot of babies that are suddenly 20 years old. So we're going to need to basically supply employment, and we need to basically get people that are coming across the border into employment as quickly as possible, because I don't want to increase the welfare state at all. I abhor the welfare state. I don't want to be paying any taxes to pay for anybody at all. But I think that we can fix this system so that we can end the chaos at the border. Right now, we have moms with kids crawling under barbed wire. We have kids that are being trafficked by the cartels. That's a whole nother piece of ending the failed war on drugs and getting rid of the cartels so that we can stop the human trafficking at the border. But my main goal with immigration is to end the chaos at the border, get people to come in legally, because we get the system, much more easy to work with. I see 3 visas: a visitor visa, a work visa, and an immigration visa, and get people to work as quickly as possible. But at the same time, I'm for as much free flow of goods and services across our border, and trade, I think, is the best way to do that. And so I'm for a more open border, but not a full wide open, no checks and balances at all whatsoever. I think that we have to have a secure border as far as keeping bad actors out. And one of the ways that we do that is stop this chaos where people are just coming across the border at all different areas. If it's super simple to come through and get a piece of paper and be legal, then they won't be coming through at all these other places. And that allows the border security to pick up the people that are trying to come into the country really nefariously and illegally. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do to, kind of make that system more fair and make it so that we end this chaos and stop the crisis that's going on at the border.
If I could just follow up, because I know, like, basically the only candidate in this race who hasn't received criticism about their border policy for the most part is Jacob Hornberger. So and that's because he just wants it wide open.
Sure.
And there's a lot of libertarians that will back him on that.
Excuse me, guys, I'm gonna have to run. I apologize. Thank you so much for giving me so much of your time. If you have any other questions, you can always reach out to me via Twitter or something else. I hope I can do this again, guys. Have a great night.
Thanks, Larry.
Have a good night.
All right.
Yeah.
How would you?
Yeah, I totally hear you.
How would we? Yeah, how would we secure the vastness of our Mexican border?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, if we did the visa thing, it would open the trade.
The thing is, yeah. So the thing is,
still have bad actors.
Yeah, 100%. So I think the thing is that you can't really secure the border if there's millions of people coming across in over 1,000 miles of border, or whatever, however much border we have. I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot of border, right? And if there's this people streaming across in every direction, it makes it almost impossible to really control the border or have any way of knowing what's going on. So the idea is to really simplify the process so that people voluntarily come through the system that's super easy as you can possibly be. I'm not looking for any kind of friction at all, but I do think that we need to just make sure that we know who's coming across the border from other countries, because there aren't bad actors, and it's kind of a national defense issue in my opinion. But I like Jacob a lot, and I think I think this is one of those things again where that's the North Star. The North Star is, for me, would be to have a fully open border and just let it go. But I think that the practical, realistic idea is that that's not feasible because of all these other things. Like when I first was thinking about it, I was like, I don't want an open border because I don't want the welfare state, right? But then I realized that for a lot of libertarian policies, we have to have a bunch of things happen in order for us to be happy with it, right? If I said I want a full open border, but I want everybody to get free welfare when they come across, that would be horrible, right? So you have to take all these things kind of in pieces, and I think that's the best approach to do it.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I think a lot of people misunderstand that. Like, they think that like you or Tremont or Josh Smith or Reckenwall are advocating for a border wall. And
hell no. The border wall is the stupidest shit ever, because basically we have right now the cartels dig tunnels under the ground in California to smuggle drugs all the time. So you're telling me you have this giant wall and they're not just going to dig a tunnel under it? They're not going to just put a ladder over the top of it? There's literally 1,000 miles, like you said. The only way to do that would be to completely militarize the border and bring military in. And I think that is just a ginormous waste of money and an infringement on everybody's civil liberties, including Americans, because we don't have that at the Canadian border, right? I mean, it just seems ridiculous to me. I'm not at all for a wall. It's a giant waste of money, a giant boondoggle, and it won't stop anybody. And the other thing is look, prohibition just doesn't work. I'm pretty much across the board. Prohibition of alcohol didn't work. We got Al Capone. Prohibition of drugs doesn't work. We got the drug cartels. Prohibition of people coming across the border isn't going to work. They're going to find a way to come, whether we like it or not. And unless we're willing to like shoot people at the border or something, that it's just going to be the case. And here's another thing that was super interesting. I was listening to this guy in Rhode Island on the radio, and they were talking about how a lot of these candidates are talking about rounding up people and deporting them, mass deporting 10 million, 20 million people out of the United States. And he said that it sounds interesting in when you think about it, but then go try to put it into practice. Can you imagine cops going door to door and saying, show us your papers. We have to know whether you're a good citizen or a bad citizen. And if we don't have the right paperwork, we're sending you off to some foreign country. And there would be times where American citizens would get caught up in that because their paperwork wasn't in order or some stupid crap like that. I don't want to live in a country where I have to show my papers to any freaking government agency to tell me whether I can be here or can't be here. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. Sorry for the rant.
No worries. Hey, it was one of the few things I saw in there where it's like you didn't really like go full bore elaborate, but like I know like Hornberger's hit everyone else's campaign on that and his followers. So
yeah, Hornberger and I have we have a really good rapport. I like Hornberger a lot. I think Hornberger, he he's like 76 years old, I want to say, or something like that, and he's been doing this forever, right? Like he's been at this for 30 years or whatever it's been that he's been at it, right? And if I think if I was doing this for 30 years, I would get to a point where I was just like, fuck it, I'm just going full principle. I don't care about any plans. I'm just going to tell you the North Star where I want to get to, because that's the message I want to deliver to everybody. And I don't think that he's wrong. I just think that what Larry said earlier was that a lot of Americans aren't ready to hear that scares them, and that we have to basically lead them down the path of liberty, and kind of spoon feed it to them a little bit. Some things we can be really aggressive on, like ending the Fed, abolishing the IRS, but some things, they're not as open to hearing the full-fledged libertarian ideal. But let me be clear, I believe all the things that that Jacob says. I think he's right in most ways on a lot of stuff, and I like him as a person, and I want to continue a relationship with him after we get done running this presidential campaign. I was having a little bit of nostalgia and sadness that I won't be traveling around with my compatriots anymore, because we've literally been on the road for 6 months, seeing each other every week, and we've kind of got a good camaraderie together. All of us treat each other with respect and with dignity, and I think you can see that even in the debates that we've had. We all believe that we all have a good message of liberty, and that we all could carry that message. But again, I believe that I can carry the message to more people than any of them. And so as long as my message is as close to them as possible, I believe I'm the correct candidate to choose, because I believe I can get it to the most people possible.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss the Mike Termott and Chase dig videos of you sitting in first class and them sitting in business and coach.
That thing that what's fun, I'll just touch on that just a quick second. So I'm really frugal. Even though I made a lot of money for a long time, my family and friends would just heckle me because I would like sit there and complain over a $10 item, or I'd still be eating top ramen or whatever. And this campaign, I just finally said, you know what, for this one thing, because I'm going to be doing so much travel, I'm going to splurge a little bit and give myself first class. This is the first time I ever splurged for first class, and my wife was like super pissed off because she's like, you never get first class when we go to Hawaii or we go on vacation, but now you're running for president and you find yourself first class. So it was pretty funny that came
You
up.
could have joked with her that you'd buy a jet. It could have been worse.
Oh boy, right, exactly. Yeah.
Um, question for you. So voter gravity, I was one of the ones that helped bring that through the LNC through candidate support committee.
Okay.
So Pennsylvania and a lot of states, we only get 50% off with what currently the LNC is paying.
Okay.
It also did deplete a lot of candidate support's budget.
Mm.
So as the presidential nominee, like, we have $5,000 left in our budget for candidate support.
Yeah.
How would you help fundraise for candidates across the country to have voter gravity? Because as the presidential candidate, you would have access for free through LNC's contract.
Okay.
And how would you, and all the data trickles up, and then with that, would you share your campaign data into voter gravity so the candidates using it at the local level can see it as well, and
Yeah,
with the LNC?
Yeah, I'm for sharing our campaign data with national, and if they want to share it with voter gravity, they can. I'm not sure. That's a private company, right? That's not the same as the LNC, right? They're a separate company.
So yeah, they're a private company owned by a libertarian and a Republican. We have basically compartmentalized our data, and we
Okay.
have exclusive rights to our data in the contract.
Yeah, in general, I'm for data sharing. That's that whole Go Gold thing that I was talking about, trying to get a database of donors together so that we can all, we can reach those people. Look, I mean, even though I have money, if I gave $5,000 to every state, that's $250,000, and it starts adding up really quick. But what I can tell you is that I believe that this Stop 270 is the best way to get attention to our down ballot candidates all around the country. I have been giving money, donating to candidates directly all across the country. I probably donated to 60 or 70 candidates around the country at this point. I'm gonna, when I'm campaigning, I'm gonna be going to the different states that have candidates who are running, and I'm gonna be campaigning alongside them. I'll give you one example. There's everywhere I go, like 5 or 6 states, there's some guy always that has a bow tie on. And so I made a pledge that I will get a bow tie, even though I think they're ridiculously stupid. But I'm going to get a bow tie, and I'm going to go campaign with these guys with bow ties door to door as the libertarian candidate. And that's what I'm trying to do for all the down ballot candidates, is support them, get them elected, or at least get them a bigger percentage win. My ultimate goal for the Libertarian Party would be to have 50 or 60 candidates running on every state ballot across the country, because I think that is one of the best ways that we can get our message out there. If I got my ballot and I saw 50 L's on the ballot, every single one had an R, D, and an L, I'd be like, what the hell is this L, if I wasn't a libertarian? And I think that's a great way to get people to get interested in the Libertarian Party, is to run as many candidates as we can.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the data sharing would help a lot, just because then the candidates can use that to get their own donors, and
Yep, 100%.
that's ideal.
We bought L2 data for Nebraska, and we're going to buy it for Maine. It's expensive. I think I spent $7,000 or $10,000 on the Nebraska L2 data, and we're already giving that to Data Dave and his analytics team that works for the LNC. So I've worked with Data Dave already. I'm TJ Ferreira is on my team. He's a big data guy, computer guy, and so he's been working with them too. He's the one that's managing all that L2 data, and we're going to buy Maine. We might buy some other states. I know Joe Jorgensen bought 10 or 12 or 15 states or something like that. The cost is expensive. It's really expensive. It's like, it could be like $50,000 a state on some of the bigger states. So that's huge.
Pennsylvania is close to 50.
Yeah, so that's huge money. But if I spend it, I will give all that data to the LNC 100%.
Does anyone have any other questions for Lars? And he's pretty much been on for an hour and a half straight.
Yeah, and I do have another town hall after this, so I probably should try to get some dinner in there somewhere.
Yeah. So if no one has any other questions, I'm gonna stop the recording. If I can figure out how to do that for mobile. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, okay. Appreciate it.